Welcome back. Since 2020, Milwaukee has experienced a spike in some violent crimes. It's something that not only concerns citizens, but the Milwaukee Police Department as well. In our final conversation of the evening, I sit down with City of Milwaukee Police Chief Jeffrey Norman to learn more about how the MPD is dealing with violence and reckless driving, all while coping with staff shortages. Joining us now is the Chief of the Milwaukee Police Department, Jeffrey Norman. Chief Norman, thanks so much for being with us, and thanks so much for having us here with you.
Thank you.
How would you describe your biggest challenges that the department is facing?
Well, I've always said the biggest challenge for the department is trust. Understanding that building trust with our community, with our partners, our elected officials, that we will always have the best interests of our community in mind, and that our department only works as well as the community allows us. And trust helps provide information in regards to incidents of crime, engagement, understand that we are responsive toward the community. The only way that you can really have a truly impactful relationship is to have a trusting relationship. So Milwaukee Police Department is committed to continue to work on trust, being out there engaged, being in corners where we're not expected, continue to be in corners that we are expected, to ensure that we're always creating, nurturing, and respecting the trust that's given to us.
So one thing I do want to spend a little bit of time talking about are some of those other challenges that do exist. And one of them really is the homicide rate. When we take a look at 2022, it was the third year in a row that there was a record number of homicides, with the north side and the northwest side hit the hardest. What are some of the factors that you know are causing that increase?
Seeing the dynamics of what drives this homicide rate in our city, we know that a large part is unfortunately unknown. But what we do know is that domestic violence and the inability to resolve your conflict, meaning conflict argument, is the two main factors in our homicide rate. In fact, it almost contributes to half of the homicides that took place in our city. So with that understanding, gives you a base to go and say, how do we impact, how do we intervene? And it's important to understand that it's not just the Milwaukee Police Department's responsibility alone. Work with partners, work with different institutions within our community to truly make not only a direct impact, but a sustainable and consistent impact.
Are weapons too accessible? Is this, if we reached a point when we look at the number of homicides that are committed using firearms, the number of people who are injured in other acts of violence using firearms, have we reached a point where the city, the police department, need to ask the legislature for some kind of relief and help to address the issue of the proliferation of weapons in our city?
So whenever it comes to addressing a multifaceted, complicated issue, I'm looking for all solutions, beyond just the legislator, but our community, to our elected officials, to our community stakeholders. We all have a responsibility to deal with at the heart of this issue. It's behaviors. There's a lot of different tools out there that can create harm, but if you have the wrong behaviors attached, whether it's negligent in regards to making sure you put up that firearm in a responsive manner, or you're talking about in regards to how do you resolve a conflict or argument in a productive way. And so whatever that can help deal with behaviors, making sure that we are, again, putting out the right type of support for the mental health issues or the issues in regards to, again, understand the gravity of the responsibility of owning a firearm, we'll be making some true impact.
Reckless driving continues to be a big issue in the streets of Milwaukee. There are some initiatives that have been put in place, including confiscating vehicles. Are those working quickly enough, and are there other steps that the department can take to help get this under control?
I would say that we're moving in a positive direction. Seeing that, when we have enacted the towing policy, which was back in May of 2022, accomplishing over 218 tows. Now, that can be a glass half empty, a glass half full. We'd like to see is a glass half full. For those individuals who have been told, we have not seen a repeat in that behavior for those individuals who have been in that infraction, but also no repeat behaviors when we have sued individuals who were called the most egregious violators. Twice we had a pretty almost an unorthodox, but a new initiative where we have put forth the power of the nuisance law and sued reckless drivers and made sure that there is accountability from the court system.
I do want to talk about the department's personnel study that was done. Was released just a few weeks ago. 211 pages, that's a lot of information to look at.
Absolutely.
But I'm sure there's one point that did not surprise you, and that is the department is short-staffed. What are some of the recommendations to address that issue? There's the obvious, hire more officers, but folks have to go through the training and the class, so there's some other things that can be done to get more sworn officers on the street.
Right. And definitely welcome the Matrix study, understanding that that is something that was put forth, a couple years ago in regards to having a deep dive look into our department. Some of the recommendations, reallocation of personnel. We do that all the time, depending on cost of service, needs of the respective districts. Also going through a civilianization process. How do you civilianize to take situations where you are having a sworn officer actually do a non-sworn duty? And so that's the process. Not a quick process. You got to deal with, contract negotiations, rules and laws. So it's a steady process, but we understand that there's opportunity in that. Also, that we look at from the standpoint of how do we take some of the burden off the officers in responding to calls so to free them up for more serious. So we got the online reporting, where you're able to call in certain reports so you don't have to have an officer respond. Utilizing some of our non-sworn, our community service officers, what we call CSOs. Those help in regards to dealing with lower level incidents. Maybe you have a theft report or, a simple accident where you can have those individuals help out for those duties and keeping your sworn officers available.
Officers see so much firsthand. I've heard people describe it as it's a job where you see people every day on what may be the worst day of their life. What kind of supports are there in place to help officers with what they see every day?
You're absolutely right. It is a challenge. One, we need to be intentional as leaders to give them a little balance. Being able to be part of engagements that remind them why they got into this profession. Remind them in regards to that no officer came on the particular career with a, who cares about the world. They have a light inside of them. So we need to continue to nurture that, where that engagement aspect helps remind you that, there's a lot of good out there in our community and that you need to be a part of it and see that. There's intentionality on our part as a department. We know we need to have officers healthy in body and also in mind. And so working on that, and also not being afraid to ask for help. As you talked about, one of our recent members, unfortunately, was killed in the line of duty. So we asked for outside help. There is a group called LEADER, Law Enforcement Death Response Team. All across the state came in and did a number of debriefings for all our 2,200 members. Because it's more than just the sworn officers who are affected by this. We have people working our communication division. They're the 911 operators. They have to hear these particular traumatic situations. We have individuals supporting the officers from the non-sworn side. And so we need to be, again, addressing all of those pain, trauma, and concerns as a one team.
We've appreciated the time that you've given us to talk about both the challenges and successes that the Milwaukee Police Department is having, but you can't be everywhere. Tell me what you need citizens to do.
I think that at the end of the day, do what speaks to you. That being a bystander is unacceptable. There is something that you can find some type of, drawn to, committed to, whether it's helping with a local church with, the Sunday school with the kids, or, going to a, community group, or, being a part of some of the efforts in regards to putting out the word about reckless driving. I always say to the community, just do something.
Chief Norman, thank you so much for being with us. We really do appreciate it.